Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey friends, take a moment right now. Just take a moment and imagine how great you'd feel living the unique and distinct reason you were put on this planet to live. Doing work you love, with people you love, in places you love, and all the while creating something of real value to others. That's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you it makes a very happy life. And so can my new friend, Patricia Ryan Madison. She's my guest star today, and she's here to share her unique and distinct journey to her life of significance. Hey, Patricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt. I'm very pleased to be here.
Right on. Well, just take a minute or two and tell us what you're doing these days to make your mark of significance on the world.
Well, the thing I put into the world some years ago in 2005 was a little book called Improv Wisdom. And I have been, in a sense, putting that book forward into the world ever since. And she has been traveling. I think of it as my daughter. And she's been traveling around in 9 languages around the world. So what I'm doing today and every day is trying to see that the message from that book becomes available around the world, and to respond to readers and people who have questions for me, and actually to do reality's work, because I think that's my purpose, is to be here to see what comes to me and that I can respond to. So I haven't so much got a particular goal in mind out there that I want, but I want to be useful to others.
And you
Does that
mentioned,
make sense?
yeah, you mentioned the message or the purpose of the book. Give us 30 seconds on what is the main message of the book.
The purpose of the book is to share ways that we can all loosen up, trust ourselves and our partners, have a little fun, and deal with the unexpected.
Yeah.
I see improvisation not so much as a form of comedy, but as a way of living, a way of doing things. So I'm actually, I'm sharing what I've found in my 80 years to be a good way to live. And I know that's part of the purpose of your show, is to help people find that. So while no life way guarantees being stress-free, I think the thing that Improv Wisdom wants to tell you is that you're okay just as you are. And you can be average and still score. So
now, wait a second. I think, did I hear you say in your 80 years?
yeah.
You're 80 years old?
Well, 2 months. I'm 79 and
Wow. Well, you look
yeah.
fantastic. So, folks, this is what living the life you were meant to live like looks like. Very good. That's wonderful. Well, Patricia, let's have some fun now with mathematics, if you don't mind.
Love
Let
it.
our friends across the World Wide Web, get to know you through our equation of the happy formula. And you know the
Okay.
one. It's simple, but it's very powerful. Capacity plus purpose equals happy. So let's start with capacity. Patricia, what are your practices for building your personal capacity, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, financial, emotional? In other words, what do you do on a regular basis to create the capacity you need to take good care of yourself and your loved ones and still have plenty left over to be a giver to others?
Wow, big question. We could spend a couple hours on that, but let's try to put that concisely. Well, this morning I got up at 4 o'clock in order to turn over the dough to bake some bread. I bake a really lovely rye walnut caraway seed bread that my husband loves. So this recipe requires that you leave it all night and then you get up early and turn it once. So baking bread's one of the ways that I try to give back, and I try to take a walk every day up the hill. Behind my house is a pretty steep hill, and I've got a 24-minute walk that is rough, but I try to do it. Some days when I don't have a lot of energy, I'll stop every I don't know, every 100 feet and rest a little bit, but I keep going. Exercise is important, even though it is really hard. I would love just to keep sitting. Sitting and resting is one of my favorite things. I love to sleep, but when I get up, I got to do that walk, got to eat a good breakfast, got to tell my husband I love him and thank him.
How long have you been married?
Uh, 1989, 33, something like that. I got married late in life, so I was almost 50 when I got married, and or something like that. Numbers escape me now, but I have a great husband who's he says yes and I say yes, and so it almost doesn't matter what we do because we're agreeable. The other thing that I do always have from the beginning of my life is to save first. No matter how much money I make, how little I make, whatever it is, I always save first so that I'm taking care of the future in that way. I think wear comfortable shoes and always save money, a little bit of it. So.
That's good advice. Great advice. Well, let's dive into Patricia, my favorite capacity building concept called a Kaizen state of mind.
Yes.
This is a beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And it's based on mindset, not circumstance. A Kaizen state of mind is knowing there's always something I can do better tomorrow than I did today. It's optimistic. It creates this gentle, powerful, continuously uplifting of my life day after day after day. So, Patricia, how does a Kaizen state of mind help you to increase your personal capacity to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Well, I think it's at that moment where I don't think I can go on. And using my walk up the hill is a good example of that. There comes a point many times in the day where it just seems too hard, or I feel like, no, I just can't. At that moment, if I take a breath and say, you don't have to do the whole thing, just this next 5 yards. Take some breathing. Breathing exercises help me too when I get stuck and I don't want to do something and my mind is playing tricks with me. Oh, you can't do this. Why don't you just go home? It's too cold out today. Any of that kind of not helpful mental talk. Kaizen reminds me it's just the next step. It's not the top of the hill that I have to reach. So Kaizen is a brilliant practice, and it's also as simple as in the morning when I just want to stay in bed a little bit, maybe 15 more minutes, feels so good. The one thing I can do is pull the covers back. Just do that. That one thing. Then it's a little cold. Then I can throw my feet out. So yeah, we can always do one little thing, and that's empowering. Don't you think?
Yeah, and give us just a little bit. So I'm 61. You're almost to be 80, and so there's things that we can't do at this age that we could do when we were 25.
Yeah.
But also vice versa. So how do you combine the idea of Kaizen, always being able to do more, with the idea that we do age and there are certain things that we can't do the way we used to in our youth, and be okay with it?
Right. Yeah. Well, I've got a little. I have to argue a little bit here with the value of more. It seems to me that one of the things that I've learned, especially in the last 10 years, 15 since I officially retired, is that more is not always better. Certainly, it's true all around, and that one of the problems we have as a consumer society is that. For everything to run, we have to keep wanting more and buying more and putting more in the house. And now I'm at that stage where I really have to get rid of things. And so that what I've substituted for this notion of more is enough. And that I feel that sufficiency all around me. And it's kind of a mantra for me, is that I really I have done enough. I've traveled enough. So if if reality brings me an adventure or something, I'm grateful for it. But I don't have a sense of needing more, enough, sufficiency. That's where happiness lies.
Yep, I'm with you on that. In fact, I'm writing a 4-series blog post right now, and that was the opener, is unlearning life. And that specific thing, I used to always think more is better, and now I'm learning that less is more. And so it's a mind shift. Um,
It's
Wonderful.
also, I think too, it is compassionate, because at some point, all of the more that I've accumulated, somebody's got to deal with. And
Yep.
that one of my great fears is dying and leaving that stuff to be sorted out by someone else. That's not a good thing. So
And it can all be used by others. You
can
put
all
it
be
back in
used.
circulation. It's a wonderful thing.
It is, yeah.
Awesome. So let's move on to purpose, that second element of the happy formula.
Hmm.
I've observed that major life transformations or discovery of purpose often comes from devastation.
Mm.
Addiction, disease, death, disaster, some big, awful crisis strips life to its core.
Hmm.
However, in my second book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover my purpose using inspiration.
Mm.
So how about you, Patricia? Was there a specific moment or event or crisis or inspiration that revealed to you the purpose you were meant to live?
Yes. I talk about it in the book in the chapter "Wake Up to the Gifts." I spent a week in a Zen monastery in Japan, where I did a practice called Nikon. And Nikon is a Japanese is the Japanese word for looking inside. And the particular kind of looking inside was to look at your life from the vantage point of what you have received from others and what you've given back and what trouble and bother you've caused them. So I sat for a week contemplating those three questions around my life quite specifically. We're not looking at generalities. Oh, I've gotten a lot and I haven't given very much, but I look year by year at my life in relationship to the world.
And how long ago was this?
This was, let's see, 2003. It's been at least 20 years. And I may be off even by a decade here, because I've been studying Nikon since the 90s. I had come upon it through the work of David K. Reynolds and something called Constructive Living, that Nikon applied daily to notice what you're receiving, what you're giving back to the world, and the trouble you're causing others. That is a radical shift of perspective. And it's different from the mind likes to look at what trouble others are causing us, and gee, I haven't quite gotten mine or something.
Right.
But it gave me my purpose, because after
Love it.
actually doing this practice, I had lists of my debt to the world. Right now, I have a debt to you for listening to these ideas and then publishing them for others. I wish the whole world could understand the debt we have to each other and to the world. And sometimes I fail to notice that, because I will see a waitress brings me a meal at a restaurant, and maybe she's kind of a little bit surly, has some attitude. So I think, well, she's kind of not nice, and fail to notice that the food she's bringing me nourishes my body and I'm allowed to live.
Yeah.
So even though I paid for the meal, we take as if it's our due. So this revelation of being able to see what I'm receiving for the world, passing that message on to others, I think is my purpose.
And so you were there for a week and you had this transformational shift.
Yes.
So a different person came out?
Yes. Different person came out.
Let our listeners understand that the impact of that and how that changed your life, or what did your life look like before and then afterwards?
Well, I think before I had the normal human perspective of seeing more or less the that I was a self-made person. I've kind of gotten here on my own. I've done my part. Looking at the debts we have to the world changes that perspective. It does something to the ego that shifts it around so that you can't ever again imagine that you don't have any debts. I know that doesn't sound like an attractive thing. I've often thought selling Nikon's hard, lower your self-esteem away to mental health. But it is. It's somehow when I realize it's not about me.
Right.
And that when I see that my job is to be part of the world, I have a practice too of never resist a generous impulse. That's a quote by the Dalai Lama. And so it's something as simple. A generous impulse might be, oh, that her hair looks so nice, I need to tell her that. Or it might be to pick up a piece of trash, or it might be to make a small donation to something. So whenever that impulse to do something or be generous, I'm honor bound to myself to do that. So,
Yeah. That's beautiful. So just one last question before we move on this was a couple years before the book?
Yes. Yeah.
And was this the catalyst for the book? Because I noticed that you were in your career for quite a long time,
Right.
And then the book comes out.
I would not say that event itself was the catalyst, but it's one of the many pieces, because the book came from my understanding of that purpose, as well as my work as an educator in college, and how at Stanford, people studying improv discovered something more than just their debt to the world. They learned how to trust each other, how to be kind, how to play games. And so my professional career as a theater teacher was kind of coming together with my spiritual and philosophical life. And at some point, it just became clear that I needed to write about that.
Beautiful, Patricia. All right, let's take a quick break and let our sponsor spread a little love with our listeners.
Okay.
If you have more ideas than actions, if you have more promises than change, if you're ready for the life you are meant to live, then TI2A is the book for you. And this is the Something Significant show, and I'm your happy host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Patricia Ryan Madison. She's the author of Improv Wisdom, and her book is currently published in 9 different languages all around the globe. It's fantastic. And Patricia, I love this article called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. I found it on lifescience.com. And it says, the act of giving itself can be a gateway to discovering your reason for being on this planet. It says, science supports the notion that giving one's time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering purpose, transcending difficulties, and finding fulfillment and meaning in life.
Absolutely.
So I updated our formula. Capacity plus purpose plus giving equals really happy.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Patricia? From your own experience, have you found that giving your time and talents and treasure has been a pathway for discovering your purpose and transcending difficulties that you've faced, and for bringing real meaning into your life?
Well, you've already stated it really so well, that being generous is actually an end in itself. We sometimes think and studies may make the point that that giving makes me happy. Less important than making myself happy through actions of selflessness is just that it's what makes sense in life. And it's not always easy. So this notion of always being generous and always, sometimes that's hard. And I want to point that out, that generosity can become a way of life if you practice it. And then it's like, of course, this is the way to be. You have a bunch of E's, I believe, and I have 4 A's and I have 3 G's. And my 3 G's are gratitude, generosity, and grit. And the grit is the doing of those things. I think gratitude comes from actually looking around at the world and seeing how much we already have. And generosity then follows from that, or the other way around. And then grit is the part that sometimes that's not easy. And we'd be crazy to think that that the formula we have that you're sharing is always happy.
Sunshine and roses.
Sunshine and roses. No, not always.
It takes work. Right? Yep. Grit. That's a great word we don't hear very much.
No.
But you need to have that in order to, well, that's about building capacity, right? You can't give what you don't have. So, and I love that the science agrees with us, and I've experienced it too, that it's this great feeling that comes from the 4th element of significance, doing work. It's grit, doing stuff that creates value for others. It's not, the magic of life doesn't come from getting more. It really comes from giving more. But there's more to it than that. It's not just the giving that's magical, Patricia. What I've been exploring and learning and experiencing too is that it's when you're giving from living in your purpose. That's where you find the real magic. So, Patricia, tell us, how does it make you feel when you're happily living your life and giving to others through the work you were put on this planet to do? And people around you have taken notice. How does it feel when the people you're impacting by the life you're living are saying things like, Patricia Ryan Madison has changed the lives of thousands of students over the past 28 years. Patricia is an amazing woman with the patience of Job, the wisdom of Abraham. She's made an incredible mark on the earth with her understandings and teachings. Many people in the field of improv around the world, including me, the writer writes, love, respect, and revere Patricia for her encyclopedic knowledge about improvisation, her compassion, her brilliant teaching and facilitation skills, her generous sharing of ideas and advice, and her endless curiosity and delight at life, meeting new people, and going on exciting adventures. Another says she's an inspiration. One of the most thoughtful humans on our planet. She's funny and appreciates the humor of life. Her guidance emerges from her love of being fully present in every conceivable way. She has a terrific way of distilling improvisation into kindness and action. One of Stanford's truly inspired teachers, generous, gracious, incredibly engaging, deeply devoted to her students, and she makes you want to get up and do something, try it out, make mistakes, laugh, play, and try it again. And I'm just going to give you one more. And this is from your brother Michael, and it brought tears to my eyes. He said, when I think about her qualities, I would suggest you ask her to describe our mother. I believe the delightful, warm person that Patricia would outline would also fully describe the person who is Patricia. She's the best. So tell us, how does all that make you feel?
Well, thank you. It brings tears to my eyes. And yeah, my mother was an amazing woman, and kindness, generosity was her life. And if I've picked up some of that, wow, lucky me. Thank you. And I'm really overwhelmed. Thank you.
I think it's what I'm learning, Patricia, is when you actually find your gift and you deploy it, it creates giving automatically. And when we're doing that, we don't always notice the impact that we're having on people around us. And that's the magic. It's this great big happy circle. Giving your time and talents and treasures is this powerful pathway for discovering purpose. And giving from living in your purpose brings profound joy to your life, but also to those around you. But it's to your life too. Giving leads to purpose, and giving from purpose leads to joy. So, to more properly reflect the exponential power of the happy formula, Patricia, I've got to tweak it just a little bit more. Capacity times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power, and that's really, truly, deeply happy. Does that sound about right to you?
Sounds about right.
Wonderful. All right, let's wrap things up with a lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites, and then have you tell us what they mean to you. First thing that comes to mind, because I know you're an improv aficionado, and it's called the lightning round. So here we go. I have to confess, I was going to introduce you today as the godmother of improv. And fortunately, I looked it up. And there was a godmother of improv called Viola Spolin.
Viola Spolin, absolutely.
So I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I did my research. But she says, this is her first quote, "Play touches and stimulates vitality, awakening the whole person, mind, body, intelligence, and creativity."
Absolutely true. When we play, we enter a new realm where the part of us that says no takes a rest. And we need that. We need to be where we're accepting life. Play equals life.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking today as I was getting ready for our talk, and I had the thought for the first time that it feels like I'm a kid that just found a new kid in the neighborhood to play with. And I was all excited about getting a chance to play with you today.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's a gift to me. Boy, wow.
So this one is from the inspiring Patricia Ryan Madison herself. She says, "Being alive is like riding a bicycle. We always feel a little off balance and insecure. But in the act of balancing, we come alive."
Right. Well, it's the gerund there. It's the ing. We often strive for balance. But if we're alive, we're never balanced, because if we're balanced, we're dead. So it's the notion of the ing, of balancing, that is important to remember that when you're feeling a little shaky, as you do sometimes when you try to ride a bicycle. So recognize that's a symbol you're alive now. Stay awake so that you can keep that balancing and go somewhere.
Good. From C.S. Lewis, he says, "For the present," as he's talking about the present moment, "for the present is the point at which time touches eternity."
Yes. Well, if we're realistic, we only have the present.
Yeah.
And so there's some way that it's fashionable these days to practice or study mindfulness. And that really has to do with awareness of the importance, the magic of what's happening right now. Yeah. This moment between you and me will never come again. There's a Japanese phrase, ichigo ichie, which is used in tea ceremony, which means one time, one meeting. This will never come again. So savor this moment, whatever it is.
Beautiful. All right, from Dr. Steve Maraboli. "The universe doesn't give what you ask for with your thoughts. It gives what you demand with your actions."
Makes sense to me. And I think that we are what we do. That our motivations, whatever they may be, don't mean anything if we don't enact them. So I can be a great conservationist in philosophy, but if I step over that piece of trash and fail to take action, I'm really missing the point. So
we're back to grit.
Back to grit. Doing.
That's right. Do it.
We are what we do.
Very good. From Adyashanti. A total acceptance of yourself brings about a total transcendence of yourself.
Makes sense to me that the whole point of wanting to accept yourself is to get over yourself, so that the self isn't the big deal. So what I see a lot of tragedy from young people who are so self-absorbed, trying to figure themselves out and like themselves, and it's me on me on me. The minute they start to shift their attention outward off of themselves, they'll come to a kind of a place where the self is correctly positioned in reality. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So this is the show anchor from Goth. And he says, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Begin it now. It's the now. It's not next week or next month. I don't know how many nows I'll have. At 80, I look pretty good, but there are various parts of me that have worked better over the years. I'll be perfectly honest. So the now is the point in time where if there's something I can give or do, now's the time to do it.
Beautiful. And now, folks, it's your turn to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you are inspired by today's show with Patricia Ryan Madison, please share some love with our amazing broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Patricia, I love your advice for a happy life. To say yes to everything, accept all offers, go along with the plan, support someone else's dream. Say yes. Right, sure, okay, of course. Yes, just say yes. And I admire the values you teach. You mentioned your A's of attention, becoming more aware of reality, acceptance,
yes,
let it be as it is, don't fight reality, and appreciation. Notice the gifts, they are everywhere. Attention, acceptance, and appreciation. I love it. And I'm super happy that you've shared your wisdom about improv and about life on our show today. Would you please take a minute or two and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
What a treasure to have this conversation. And if today you look around and start to notice the gifts, I will have felt very grateful to you for doing that. That's to me, that's the secret. Notice the gifts and it'll change your life.
Beautiful. Wonderful. And thank you, Patricia. Really appreciate it. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guests like Patricia Ryan Madison and reaching folks just like you ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to websites and social media and all things Patricia Ryan Madison. Find her, friend her, buy her book, Improv Wisdom. And we didn't get to it, but she also has an amazing watercolor gallery too. It's all available at improvwisdom.com. All one word, IMPROV wisdom.com. improvwisdom.com. From me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So I want you to go to happyliving.com and take our happy quiz. Because when you measure your happy, you'll focus attention on it, and focusing attention on it inspires change and learning and improvement to flow right into your life. And once you take the quiz, and it really only takes a minute, then I hope you'll give some thought about what we can do together, you and me. Give some thought about what we can do together right now to improve the happy of your world, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome. And this is the Something Significant Show.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome, Patricia, and we're out.
Right. Super.